Hi, I'm John Decker, author of the book and Bible study Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. This video is about chapter 14, 9-11. The biblical theme for this chapter is tithing. The scripture is Acts 20, verse 35. And in that scripture, it talks about it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I think when we talk about 9/11, we all, if you're old enough to remember, we all can remember what we were doing on that day. I was actually in cross-country travel from Arizona to Orlando, Florida, and the wheels of the plane hit the ground literally as 9/11 was unfolding in Pennsylvania and Washington, D.C. and New York City. And I don't want to give away the story, but I was so fortunate that day because as I was traveling, I had all these things that were just falling right into place. And I actually thought, man, this has been the best travel day ever until I got home and found out what was going on. The essence of this chapter is really talking about the business side of golf and the business side of the church and how 9/11 and similar things that have happened in our country have affected both of these organizations. Starting out with the game of golf. Prior to 9/11, during the late 90s, the golf business was on fire. Tiger Woods had stepped out onto the scene, won the Masters. Just golf schools were doing great. All the major golf companies were just doing so well, and the game was growing at record numbers. So many people were coming into the game. As soon as 9/11, the day happened, the business itself came to a screeching halt. People stopped traveling. People stopped spending money on vacations, on golf, on leisure activities because the economy took such a hit during that time. But what was interesting is that after 9/11, the church actually grew. More people started going to church. More people started volunteering. More people were giving blood. More people were enlisting in the military. There was a unity, and although these evil terrorists tried to take away and tried to destroy America, America actually became more united because of that. And it's shame that it takes a natural disaster or it takes a terrorist act on the country to bring our country together. But I wanted the overall flavor of the chapter is to talk about the business side of both of these organizations. When you talk about the church, you're obviously going to talk about tithing. Tithing is the act of giving money, during the offering plate or pledging money, and it's recommended that you pledge up to 10% of your income. Now, for a lot of people, this is very difficult to do, and they cannot do it. For me personally, when I was joining the Stony Brook United Methodist Church, and I was going through the orientation part, and I was learning about tithing because I had given before, but not on a regular basis. It really made me aware of how little I actually was giving. And so I made a concerted effort. I'm not up to the 10% as of yet, but that's something that I work towards. But I really now understand, for the first time in my life, that you may not be able to give 10%. Maybe you're going through difficult financial time. We all have kind of highs and lows. I know I'm currently riding out a low period from a financial standpoint in my own career, but when you're in the low moments, you can give of your time. And one of the things that I've tried to do is volunteer more. For example, in Black Mountain, we have a ministry there called the Swannanoa Valley Ministries. It's a homeless shelter, and during the winter months, they provide for men and women who are homeless. And so I go and at times have volunteered and gone and spent time helping them cleaning their clothes and giving, serving them food. And when I go in there, my attitude is, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to help these people because they're homeless, and this is to be an opportunity for me to give. But I actually walk away feeling like I've received more from them than I've actually given to them, because it really puts my life in perspective. So the great thing about tithing and the great thing about this chapter is it talks about different ways that you can actually give. And it might be simply giving blood. I mean, there's so many ways that we can all give to our communities. Instead of throwing away your old tennis shoes, donating them to charities, doing whatever you can to help out, or simply going and serving food at a homeless shelter. These are all ways that you can tithe and give. And really, what's important is what's stressed in 2 Corinthians 9:7, and this is in the Bible study in the chapter. But it talks about being a cheerful giver. I know in the past when the offering plate came by, I kind of hold on to that money and I'm like, I don't have a good attitude. I'll be the first to admit. I let it go and I think to myself, man, I could really use that, or, is this really going to make a difference? And I've learned that now I'm trying to be a cheerful giver. Whether I give of my money, I try to do it knowing that God has given me so much in my lifetime. I have so much to be thankful for, that giving a small amount of money each week is more than enough. And I know that He will provide for me 1,000 times over that. So I know that it's the attitude, I think, is what's really important, because like I've heard said many times at church, God doesn't need the money. I mean, He has all the resources that He'll ever need. It's about more or less our attitude when we give, and that's something that's very important from this chapter as well. One of the things that I also am going to try my best to do with the book, and I outline this in the book, is there's charities in the book that 10% of the sales will go over my lifetime to those charities, and that's something that I also wanted to, make sure and have documented in the book. Chapter 14, 9/11, has some great lessons for us all. It's got some moments, and you'll probably, as you go through and read it, it will bring back some memories that are not good memories, but they're memories that put our life in perspective. Enjoy this chapter. It's an important chapter, and remember that being a cheerful giver is really the most important thing. It's not how much, but the attitude that you have when you give it. Enjoy chapter 14, 9/11.